My biological parents abandoned me in foster care for 20 years. Now they're taking me to court for access to the $8 million estate my adoptive family built for me. Before I continue with today's story, I'd love for you to support our channel. And while you're at it, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The envelope felt like a bomb in my hands. My fingers trembled as I stared at the courthouse seal, my mind refusing to process the words. Kelly Wallace versus Darnell and Shanice Morrison petition for parental rights and estate access. My name. Their names. Together on legal paper for the first time in 20 years. I sat in my penthouse overlooking downtown Atlanta, surrounded by everything my adoptive parents built for me, and felt the ground shift beneath my designer heels. My phone buzzed. My lawyer, Ignacio Lawson. "Tell me you're sitting down," he said. I wasn't anymore. I was pacing across Italian marble that my adoptive mother, Dorothy Jenkins, had personally selected 3 years ago. They're claiming biological rights trump adoptive arrangements. They want access to your trust fund, Kelly. All $8 million. My laugh came out strangled. They left me in a crack house when I was 3 months old. The police found me in a closet, Ignacio. A closet. Surrounded by needles. I know. We'll fight this. But his voice carried doubt like a weight. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights blur through tears I refused to shed. Somewhere out there, the two people who gave me life but nothing else were plotting to take everything my real family built. The Morrisons. I hadn't spoken their names in 2 decades. Now they were suing for my inheritance, claiming blood made them entitled to Dorothy and Harold Jenkins's legacy. My legacy. The doorbell chimed. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the intercom, a woman's voice crackled. "Kelly? Baby, it's your mama. We need to talk." I stared at the intercom screen in disbelief. The woman standing in my lobby wore a cheap floral dress, her hair in tight braids, clutching a worn leather purse. Shanice Morrison. My biological mother. She looked older than her 43 years, her face creased with lines that told stories I never wanted to hear. "How did you get past security?" I demanded. "I told them I was your mama. Baby, please. Just 5 minutes." Ignacio's voice came through my phone. "Don't open that door, Kelly. Don't say a word without me present." But something in me needed to see her face to face. Needed to look into the eyes of the woman who left me to die. I buzzed her up. She walked into my home like she belonged there, her eyes scanning the art, the furniture, the life she had no part in building. "You did real good for yourself," she said softly. "No thanks to you." The words came out like ice. She flinched. "I was sick, Kelly. Your daddy and me both. The drugs had us twisted up. But we're clean now. 7 months sober. We found Jesus and 7 months. I interrupted. "You've been sober 7 months and you think that entitles you to 20 years of my life? To the people who actually raised me. We're your blood," she said, and something in her tone shifted. Harder. Calculating. "The Jenkinses stole you from us. We never signed no papers giving you away. That adoption wasn't legal." My heart stopped. "What did you just say?" She pulled a folder from her purse, yellowed documents spilling onto my coffee table. "We got proof, baby. You were never theirs to keep." The documents scattered across my table looked ancient, stained with water damage and age. My hands shook as I picked up the first one. My original birth certificate. Baby girl Morrison. Born to Shanice Morrison and Darnell Morrison at Grady Memorial Hospital. No adoption decree. No legal transfer of custody. "This doesn't prove anything," I said, but my voice wavered. "The state removed me from your care. You lost your rights." Shanice's smile didn't reach her eyes. "They put you in emergency custody, yeah. But we never terminated our rights, Kelly. We were supposed to have time to get clean, do our programs, get you back. But Dorothy Jenkins had money and connections. She pushed through a private adoption while we were in rehab. I grabbed my phone, dialing Ignacio even as Shanice kept talking. She paid off the right people, expedited the paperwork, made sure we didn't know until it was too late. By the time we got out and came looking, you were gone. Vanished into their world. Ignacio answered on the first ring. I put him on speaker. Ignacio, she's saying the adoption was illegal. That Dorothy and Harold, it's bullshit, Ignacio cut in. I've seen your file, Kelly. Everything was legal. This is a manipulation tactic. Shanice's face hardened. Call me a liar all you want, lawyer man. But I got witnesses. I got proof. And I got a judge who's real interested in how a wealthy white family bought a black baby from the system. They weren't white, I said through gritted teeth. Dorothy and Harold were black. They gave me everything you couldn't. They gave you money, Shanice spat. We would have given you love. After Shanice left, I couldn't breathe. My penthouse felt like a prison, the walls closing in with every revelation. I pulled out the photo albums Dorothy made me before she died. Back when the cancer was winning but her spirit refused to quit. Every page told a different story than the one Shanice was selling. There I was at 5, gap-toothed and grinning, clutching Dorothy's hand on my first day of kindergarten at Spelman Elementary. At 8, in my private school uniform, Harold teaching me chess on the patio. At 12, Dorothy straightening my hair for my first dance, tears in her eyes because I was growing up too fast. At 16, both of them beaming as I accepted early admission to Howard University. You gave me everything, I whispered to their frozen smiles. My phone rang. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Kelly Jenkins? A man's gravelly voice. This is Darnell Morrison. Your father. The word felt like a slap. You have no right to call yourself that. I got every right. I helped make you. Listen, your mama came to see you today. She probably came on too strong. That's just her way. But we really do want a relationship with you, baby girl. We missed out on so much. Because you were too busy getting high. Silence. Then, you think you're better than us now? Living in your fancy tower, driving your Mercedes, looking down on where you came from. Where I came from. Fury ignited in my chest. I came from a closet surrounded by your drug paraphernalia. I came from 3 broken ribs and malnutrition. The Jenkinses saved me from you. The Jenkinses stole you, he snarled. And now you're sitting on $8 million that should be ours. We're your family, Kelly. Blood family. And we're taking what's rightfully ours. Ignacio arrived at sunrise with his associate, a sharp-eyed woman named Tanya Williams who specialized in family law. They spread documents across my dining table, building our defense like generals planning war. The Morrisons filed their petition in Fulton County, Tanya explained, her red nails tapping on legal briefs. They're claiming fraud in the adoption proceedings and requesting full access to your finances as compensation for parental alienation. Can they actually win? I asked. Ignacio and Tanya exchanged glances. There's precedent, Ignacio admitted. Not exactly like this, but there have been cases where biological parents successfully challenged adoptions decades later if they can prove procedural violations. The judge assigned to your case is Reginald Thornton. He's known for being sympathetic to biological family claims. My coffee went cold in my hands. Dorothy and Harold did everything by the book. They were good people. I believe you, Tanya said gently. But we need to prove it. I need you to tell me everything you remember about your adoption. Every conversation, every document, every detail. So I told them how Dorothy and Harold had fostered me first, spending 18 months proving themselves worthy. How they'd taken me to therapy 3 times a week for my trauma. How Dorothy quit her corporate job to homeschool me when I couldn't adjust to regular classroom settings. How Harold built me a library in our home because I loved to read. They fought for me, I said. Every single day. Then we'll fight for their legacy, Ignacio promised. But that evening everything changed. My doorman called up. Miss Jenkins, there's a woman here. Says she's your caseworker from back in the day. Miss Geneva Patterson. I hadn't heard that name in 15 years. Send her up. Geneva Patterson looked like time had been both cruel and kind. Her salt and pepper locks fell past her shoulders, and her face carried the weight of decades in social services. She hugged me tight, smelling of cocoa butter and memories. Look at you, she breathed. Dorothy and Harold would be so proud. We sat in my living room and Geneva pulled out a worn briefcase. I heard about the lawsuit, baby. I had to come. I have things you need to see. She spread out her own documents. Case files, handwritten notes, photographs I'd never seen. I was assigned to your case when you were 3 months old. The police found you on November 12, 2004. When I got to that apartment. Her voice cracked. Baby, I've seen a lot in 30 years of social work. But what I saw that day still haunts me. The photographs showed it all. The filthy closet. The empty refrigerator. Needles scattered like confetti. And a hospital report detailing my injuries. 3 fractured ribs, severe dehydration, diaper rash so bad it required skin grafts. The Morrisons weren't just using, Geneva continued. They were dealing. Darnell had 2 prior arrests. Shanice tested positive for cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine. The doctor said another day and you would have died, Kelly. I couldn't speak. Geneva's hands trembled as she pulled out another document. They're lying about wanting you back. After you were removed, they had 12 months to complete their case plan. Rehab, parenting classes, random drug tests, housing. They didn't complete a single requirement. Not one. They missed every scheduled visit. Darnell was arrested twice more during that period. When the state moved to terminate their rights, they didn't even show up to court. But Shanice said, Shanice is a liar, Geneva said flatly. The Fulton County Courthouse felt like a cathedral of judgment. I wore my armor. A navy Armani suit Dorothy had bought me for my first job interview, her pearls at my throat. Ignacio and Tanya flanked me as we walked through metal detectors, past reporters who'd somehow caught wind of the case. $8 million inheritance battle, one shouted. Biological parents versus adoptive legacy. Inside courtroom 5B, I saw them for the first time together. Darnell Morrison was tall and gaunt, his suit ill-fitting, his eyes hard. Shanice sat beside him in that same floral dress, dabbing her eyes with tissues. Their lawyer, a slick-looking man named Byron Cole, whispered to them urgently. All rise for the Honorable Judge Reginald Thornton. The judge was a barrel-chested black man in his 60s, his expression unreadable. He reviewed documents silently before looking up. This is a preliminary hearing to determine if this case has merit to proceed. Mr. Cole, your clients are claiming fraud in adoption proceedings and seeking access to the defendant's trust fund. That's a serious allegation. Byron Cole stood, all false sympathy. Your Honor, my clients are simply parents who lost their child during a dark period in their lives. They've turned their lives around, found sobriety and faith, and discovered that the daughter they lost was adopted under questionable circumstances by a wealthy family who may have circumvented proper protocols. Objection. Ignacio was on his feet. The Jenkins family followed every legal requirement. This is a transparent money grab. Let him finish, Counselor, Judge Thornton said. Cole continued, painting a picture of poor, struggling parents victimized by a system designed to favor the wealthy. He presented the same yellowed documents Shanice had shown me, claiming they proved irregular proceedings. Furthermore, Cole said dramatically, my clients never received proper notification of the adoption finalization. They were denied their constitutional right to parent their biological child. When Shanice took the stand, she transformed. Gone was the hard edge from my penthouse. Now she was all tears and trembling hands, a mother wounded by loss. Ms. Morrison, Byron Cole began gently, tell us about the day your daughter was taken. It's the worst day of my life, she sobbed. I was sick, Your Honor. Addicted. But I loved my baby. I loved her so much. When they took her, they said it was temporary. Said we could get her back if we got clean. And did you try? We did everything. The tissues came out. We enrolled in rehab. We went to meetings. But the system, they made it impossible. We were poor, we didn't have lawyers, and when we tried to find our baby, they told us she was already adopted. Gone. Like she never existed. I gripped Ignacio's arms so hard my nails bit into his sleeve. This was a performance, a complete fiction. Ms. Morrison, Judge Thornton interjected, the state records indicate you failed to complete your case plan requirements. You missed multiple drug tests, failed to attend parenting classes, and had no stable housing. Shanice's face crumpled. They scheduled things when I was working, Your Honor. I was trying to hold down 2 jobs to save money for a place where Kelly could come home to. I was fighting so hard, but the system wanted to give my baby to rich folks who could pay for lawyers and favors. Byron Cole jumped in. Your Honor, we have affidavits from 3 people who worked at the Department of Family and Children's Services during that period. They're willing to testify that the Jenkins family had connections in the department, that Dorothy Jenkins was friendly with the director, and that certain files related to the Morrison case went missing during the adoption proceedings. Ignacio shot to his feet. This is speculation and conspiracy theory. But I saw Judge Thornton's expression shift. Doubt creeping in. The hearing continued for 3 more hours. When we finally left, Ignacio was furious. They're playing the race and class card perfectly, he said in the parking garage. That night I couldn't sleep. I wandered through my home, touching things Dorothy had touched, trying to feel her presence. In my home office, I pulled out the box she'd left me, letters to be opened when you need me most. I'd read some but never all of them. Now I dug deeper and my fingers found an envelope marked in case of legal challenge. My heart stopped. Inside, Dorothy's elegant handwriting filled 3 pages dated 2 years before her death. Asterisk, my dearest Kelly, if you're reading this, someone has challenged your place in our family. I anticipated this might happen someday and I need you to know the complete truth. Your biological parents are not who they claim to be. When Harold and I decided to foster you, we did extensive research. We learned that Darnell Morrison was not just an addict but a dealer who used you as collateral for drug debts. Shanice Morrison had 3 other children removed from her care before you, all born addicted, all adopted by other families. You were her 4th. The day you came to us, you weighed 9 pounds at 3 months old. You had cigarette burns on your feet. The doctors found methamphetamine in your system from exposure. Geneva Patterson told us that your biological parents had sold some of your baby clothes for drug money. When the state began termination proceedings, the Morrisons hired a lawyer not to fight for you, but to negotiate a settlement. They wanted money in exchange for giving up their rights quietly. We refused. We would not pay them to abandon their daughter. The adoption proceeded legally. They received every notification. They simply didn't care until now. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the pages. Dorothy continued, I know this is painful to read. But I need you to understand. Some people see children as possessions, not people. As things to be used. We saw you as a miracle. Our daughter. Our purpose. Fight for yourself, baby. Fight for the truth. And remember, blood doesn't make family. Love does. Always, Mom. I hired a private investigator named Ignacio Reeves. Yes, another Ignacio, which initially confused everyone. Reeves was ex-FBI, methodical and relentless. Within 2 weeks, he'd uncovered what Dorothy had known all along. Your biological parents have a pattern, Reeves explained, spreading surveillance photos and financial records across my conference table. After you, they had 2 more children. Both removed at birth due to positive drug tests. Both adopted. In 2012, they approached the adoptive family of their son, demanding money. That family paid $50,000 to make them go away. My stomach turned. They've done this before? 3 times. Always when the children reach adulthood and have access to inheritance or assets. They research, they wait, and they strike. It's a con, Ms. Jenkins. A very specific, very calculated con. Tanya leaned forward. Can we use this in court? Absolutely. But there's more. Reeves pulled up social media screenshots. Your biological parents aren't 7 months sober. Darnell was arrested 6 weeks ago for possession. The charges were dropped due to a technicality, but the arrest report is public record. And Shanice. He showed me Facebook photos dated 3 months prior. Shanice at a party, clearly intoxicated, surrounded by people I recognized from crime reports. They're still using. They never stopped. The second hearing was scheduled for the following week. Ignacio Lawson filed emergency motions to include Reeves's findings. The Morrisons' lawyer filed counter-motions claiming harassment and prejudice. The media circus intensified. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, distant relatives I'd never met, people claiming to have information. Then my doorman called up again. Miss Jenkins, there's a young woman here. Says she's your sister. I felt the air leave my lungs. Pi what? Your biological sister. Her name's Aaliyah Morrison. Should I send her up? I looked at Ignacio, at Tanya, at Reeves. They all nodded. Send her up. Aaliyah Morrison was 19 with my same dark eyes and sharp cheekbones. She walked in wearing scrubs, clearly coming from a shift, exhaustion and determination warring on her face. I know this is crazy, she began before I could speak. But I had to warn you. Darnell and Shanice, they're my biological parents too. I was removed when I was 2 days old. Born addicted to crack. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 sisters connected by trauma and blood, separated by fate and different families. They came after your family too? I asked. She shook her head. My parents didn't have money. Blue-collar folks. Dad's a mechanic, Mom's a teacher. Not worth the Morrisons' time. But I heard about your case through my mom's friend who works at the courthouse. I had to come. Why? Because you need to know who they really are. Aaliyah pulled out her phone, showing me texts. Messages from Shanice spanning years. Occasional, I love you, baby messages followed by requests for money. Venmo requests. Photos of eviction notices. She found me on social media when I turned 16. Tried to build a relationship. I was stupid enough to fall for it at first. Gave her $3,000 I'd saved for college. She told me it was for rehab. Let me guess. She bought drugs. Got arrested 2 weeks later. When I confronted her, she called me ungrateful. Said I owed her for giving birth to me. The bitterness in Aaliyah's voice was familiar. It lived in my chest too. Darnell's worse, she continued. He threatened my adoptive parents once. Said he'd claim they abused me if they didn't pay him. My dad, my real dad, went to the police. That's why they backed off. Why are you telling me this? Aaliyah's eyes met mine. Because we're survivors, Kelly. And they don't get to win. Not this time. I'll testify. I'll tell the court everything. The courtroom was packed. Media in the back rows, Geneva Patterson in the front, Aaliyah beside her. The Morrisons sat across the aisle, their performance perfectly calibrated, humble clothes, bowed heads, clutched hands. Byron Cole called character witnesses, a pastor from their new church, a supervisor from Shanice's supposed job, a sponsor from Narcotics Anonymous. All spoke of transformation, redemption, second chances. Then Ignacio began our case. Geneva Patterson testified first, her case files laying bare every failure, every missed opportunity the Morrisons had to fight for me. These parents didn't want their child, Geneva stated clearly. They wanted their next fix. Miss Jenkins was dying in their care. The Jenkinses saved her life. Byron Cole tried to rattle her on cross-examination. Isn't it true you were friends with Dorothy Jenkins? I became friends with her after the adoption, Geneva said firmly. Because I saw her love that child the way parents should. The way the Morrisons never did. Reeves took the stand next, presenting his investigation. The pattern of financial exploitation. The recent arrest. The social media evidence. Judge Thornton's expression grew sterner with each revelation. Then Aaliyah testified. She was powerful, unshakable, her pain transformed into steel. They don't want a relationship, she told the court. They want money. They've never wanted anything else. When Byron Cole tried to discredit her, she didn't break. You can call me a liar, she said. But the records don't lie. The arrests don't lie. The other families they've extorted don't lie. And my sister, she looked at me, doesn't deserve to have her life destroyed by people who see her as a bank account. Finally, I took the stand. Ignacio guided me through my testimony, the life the Jenkinses gave me, the love, the sacrifice. Dorothy and Harold Jenkins were my parents, I said clearly. Not because of blood or legal documents. Because they chose me every single day. They taught me that family is built, not born. Judge Thornton took only 30 minutes to deliberate. When we reconvened, his face was granite. I've reviewed all evidence and testimony. This court finds no merit in the plaintiff's claims of fraudulent adoption proceedings. The Jenkins family followed all legal protocols. The biological parents failed to complete any requirement to regain custody and received proper notification of all proceedings. Shanice started crying. Real tears this time. Tears of rage at losing easy money. Furthermore, Judge Thornton continued, the evidence presented by the defendant demonstrates a clear pattern of financial exploitation by the plaintiffs. This petition is not about parental rights. It's about greed. Petition denied. Moreover, I'm issuing a restraining order. The Morrisons are to have no contact with Ms. Jenkins. If they attempt similar actions with other biological children they've abandoned, I'm notifying those jurisdictions. Darnell exploded, shouting obscenities, security restraining him as he was removed from the courtroom. Shanice followed, still crying, still performing even in defeat. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I made one statement. My parents were Dorothy and Harold Jenkins. They taught me that love is a verb, not a noun. It's what you do, not what you say. Today, justice proved them right. 3 months later, I established the Jenkins Foundation for Foster Youth. $8 million dedicated to supporting adoptive families and children transitioning out of foster care. Aaliyah became the program director, using her nursing degree and lived experience to help others. We had Sunday dinners now, this sister I never knew I needed. We shared stories about the families who chose us, about building lives from ashes. Do you ever wonder what they think now? Aaliyah asked one evening. The Morrisons? I considered it, looking at the framed photo of Dorothy and Harold on my mantle. I think they'll always be looking for the next con. But that's not my problem anymore. No, Aaliyah agreed, raising her glass. It's not. To the families who chose us. To the families who chose us, I echoed. And for the first time in months I felt the weight lift. Blood didn't make them my parents. Abandonment didn't make me their possession. Love made me Dorothy and Harold's daughter. And that was the only truth that mattered.